Hello, everybody. How are you today? So it's super warm out today, so make sure you get outside and have some fun in the sun, as it were. So I want to start today by we're going to be looking at a passage from the Gospel of Luke. It's chapter 12, verses 22 through 34. But I want to let you know that it has to do with this. So this is the weekly um, set of readings and little reflections that I put together for us for Lent. There's two sides on it, and there are two pages. It's for a whole week at a time. Hopefully, they've been printing these out at Pros. If not, Carla can make sure some get printed out today. And we're going to be looking at the text that's for today. And that's this one here. And they're very short. They just have a single verse that's like a reflect, that the reflection is based on, a tiny little comment on it, and then a practice that you could have for the day to sort of help you with it. Um, so for Wednesday, the verses from Luke 12 and it's 27 through 28, and it just says, "Consider the lilies, how they grow; they neither toil nor spin. If God so clothes the grass of the field, how much more will He clothe you?" And the little sort of helpful sentence is that Jesus reminds us that God provides for our needs amid our anxieties about tomorrow, or even amid our anxieties about tomorrow. And then the practice for the day, to sort of put that little thought into action, is when worry arises today, pause and repeat, God cares for me even more than the flowers and the birds. So it's just a little simple thing, one for each day throughout the season of Lent. I don't know if you've been using it, but there's still like 5 weeks, 4 weeks, 4 or 5 weeks left of Lent. So you'll be able to take a look at that. But for our message today, we're going to be looking at that whole passage that's based on. So again, it's Luke 22, 12, excuse me, Luke chapter 12, and it's verses 22 through 34. And I'll read that for you now. It goes like this. Then Jesus said to his disciples, "Therefore, I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat, or about your body, what you will wear. For life is more than food, and the body more than clothes. Consider the ravens. They do not sow or reap, they have no storeroom or barn, yet God feeds them. And how much more valuable are you than birds? Who of you by worrying can add a single hour to your life? Since you cannot do this very little thing, why do you worry about the rest? Consider how the wild flowers grow. They do not labor or spin, yet I tell you, even not even Solomon in all his splendor was dressed like one of these. If that is how God clothes the grass of the field, which is here today and tomorrow is thrown into the fire, how much more will he clothe you, you of little faith? And do not set your heart on what you will eat or drink. Do not worry about it. For the pagan world runs after all such things, and your Father knows that you need them. But seek his kingdom, and these things will be given to you as well. Do not be afraid, little flock, for your Father has been pleased to give you. Do not be afraid, little flock, for your Father has been pleased to give you the kingdom. Sell your possessions and give to the poor. Provide purses for yourselves that will not wear out, a treasure in heaven that will never fail, where no thief comes near and no moth destroys. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. So, there you go. Lost my place. Here we are. All right. So let's talk about that a little bit. And let's just start with this question. Has worrying ever actually helped you? Most of us would say no. Worry, I heard once it was said, worry is like a rocking chair. It gives us something to do, but it doesn't get us anywhere. And yet we all do it, whether it's rocking in a rocking chair or worrying. Some of us worry about money. Some of us worry about our health. Some of us worry about what others think about us. Some of us worry about everything. That's my go-to, worrying about everything sometimes. And we worry about it all at the same time. Worry can sneak up on us. It keeps us awake at night. It tightens our chest and makes us feel like we have to figure out everything all alone and figure it out right now. So I'm not describing anything that I think you're not familiar with, but um, that's what worry is about. So what we need to do is see things a little bit differently. Um, in this real well-known passage of Jesus about the birds of the air and the flowers of the field, he encourages us to not let worry control us. He said, "Don't worry about your life, what you will eat, or about your body, what you will wear." Now, to be honest, if someone tells us, don't worry, like, those people, I'm one of those. We often do it to our kids and young people. It's like, don't worry. Like, that's going to change anything. It doesn't make us stop worrying. If anything, sometimes I think it makes it harder. When people say, don't worry, it's kind of telling them the hidden word in that is like, ignore your problems. But that's not what Jesus is talking about. This teaching isn't about ignoring our problems. It's about shifting our focus. It's an invitation to trust that we are cared for by God, that we have people in our lives that care for us, that we don't have to carry everything alone all the time, and that there's something bigger in our lives than being fearful. Weird fear is not the biggest thing in our life. It just isn't. We can take some lessons from nature, is what Jesus points out in this. And to make the point, he talks about that and he says, consider the ravens. They don't plant or store crops or store up, don't plant crops or store up food, but still they eat. And consider the lilies, how they grow. They don't spin threads or make clothes, but they are still beautiful flowers. The message is simple. If nature is taken care of, why should we believe that we are any less worthy of God's care? So you might be thinking, though, but real life has struggles. So what about real life? Might someone some of us might wonder, that sounds nice, but what about real life? What about when the rent's due? About when I don't know how I'm going to make it through a day because it's just one of those days? The point isn't that we don't have struggles. Life is really full of challenges. That's just a given. The message is that worrying doesn't solve those things. Trust and actions do. See, here's the difference between worry and trust. Worry is exhausting. Trust is freeing. Worry makes you feel alone. Trust reminds us that we are not. Worry keeps us stuck. Trust helps us to move forward. When I was many moons ago, my daughter was very small. She was learning to swim. Like she was like just barely a toddler, and we were like, we're going to teach our kids to swim really early. I always want them to be able to know how to swim. And so, I did the dad thing. I stood in the shallow end of a pool, and she was standing there on the edge of the pool. And I'm like, come on, jump. I'll catch you. Jump. My daughter, sane, like every child is sane, first, hesitates. The water in the pool looked big. It's kind of scary, and fear kind of holds the kid back and held her back. But you keep coaxing, and that's what I did. And finally, she, kind of closes her eyes and takes a big breath and jumps. And you would think I would have caught her and kept her from going under, but I did catch her and I did keep her from going under, but it made a pretty big splash and got up in her face, and she was pretty startled by it. But pretty soon she recognized that it was all okay. She still was kind of scared, but she knew she wasn't alone. And over time, that trust that, with me helping her learn to swim, it was going to be okay. That's what trust kind of looks like. It's not about never feeling afraid. It's about knowing we don't face everything alone, that the people who care about us are around us, and especially that God's with us, always caring for us. So we also then, I think, have to think about our focus, because this teaching of Jesus is points out at the end that we kind of need to make sure to build this trust, we have to put our focus on the right thing. So he ends with the question about where is your treasure? And we all treasure things, and there's nothing wrong with that, but we have to sort of be careful about it because it can lead us to that place of not trusting in the right way. If our treasure is money, we're going to always feel anxious because money comes and goes. That's just how it works. If our treasure is maybe approval from other people, we're always going to feel a little bit insecure, because people's opinions change and, we can't control other people. If our treasure is trying to control everything, well, we always feel overwhelmed because life is complicated and unpredictable sometimes. Most times, life is not easy, but it's doable, right? But we can't go through life by controlling everything. On the other hand, if our focus is on trust, if we focus on believing that we're cared for and that hope is possible, that we can live in hope, our hearts are filled with more peace. Not because life is easy, not because we'll have all the answers, and not because it's always going to work out, but because we know we're not alone in the process. So, here's a challenge for this week about how maybe we can put this into practice. Let's try this. Each time you catch yourself worrying, pause and ask the simple question, can I trade this worry for trust? Can I trade this current worry for trust? Instead of worrying about tomorrow, can I have some trust that I will have the strength to face it because of how much I've progressed and learned in my life? Will I Can I simply choose to trust that things will be okay tomorrow and that I'm not alone in it? There's people around me, and I especially have God with me. Instead of worrying about whether I'm good enough or you're good enough, can we trust that we have value just as we are? It's important to remember that we have agency, that we are capable, that we have experience we rely on, and that we can trust that God's with us through it all. And instead of worrying about things that you can't control, can you trust that you're not alone on the journey? Right? I've been saying that all the way through with all three of these things, of these other kind of little things. But can you trust that you're not alone on the journey? Right? So, can I trade this worry for trust? Instead of worrying about tomorrow, can I trust that I'll have strength to face it when it comes? Instead of worrying about whether I'm good enough, can I trust that I have value just the way I am and ability and agency? And instead of worrying about things that you can't control, can you simply choose instead to trust that you're not alone on your journey? This isn't easy. Some days we'll get it right, other days we might not. And that's okay. Hope is a practice, trust is a choice. These are things that we learn over time. So I invite you right now to let go of your fear and hold on to hope and to hold on to trust. So, just a closing thought here for you. Picture yourself standing in a moment or a place of uncertainty that you're unsure of what's ahead. Maybe it's standing on the edge of the pool, right, about to jump in. Maybe you're feeling stuck and weighed down by the worry. But what if instead of focusing on the fear, because that's really what worry is, instead of focusing on that, you lean into the idea of trust, trusting in yourself, trusting in God, trusting in your friends and caregivers and people in your lives. What if you remind yourself, even just for today, that you're not alone, that there are people who care, that God is walking with you? What if you choose to trust that instead of going right to worry and fear? Hope is possible and trust is possible. And this is a step by step process that you can move forward. You can move forward at your own pace, in your own way, in your own time, because you do have supports around you. You do have a God to help you. You always have had those things, and you will always be capable of turning to trust. It might not always feel like that, but hope and trust over worry will always, or hope and trust will always win over worry. So I encourage you this week to lean into that hope and trust and set the worrying aside. Amen. Thanks for being with us today a little bit here, and I hope that you have a wonderful rest of the week and that your Lenten journey is one that brings you joy each day. And remember, look for your look for your little daily uh, um, reflection guide and use that to help you out over these next few weeks. So there's one that's out for this week, and the next one I'll get out to everybody on hopefully on Thursday. All right, for the following week. Okay, that's it. Have a great day, everybody.